Welcome to today's class. As always, this is Fictional History 101, and I'm your fictional professor, Aaron Johnson. Last class, we talked a little about some of the last-ditch efforts by Zeon to turn the tide of the war. Zeon had lost all of its early momentum and faced a newly built Federation fleet, as well as the Federation's own mobile suits. On top of that, the Federation had terrifying aces of their own now, namely Amuro, Ray, and the crew of the White Base. While the White Base had departed Jabro and headed towards the moon, indicating to Zeon an attack on the Granada moon base, the Federation had other plans in mind. Today, I hope to cover the end of the 1-year war. There are still 2 major battles that would decide the war for Zeon, namely the battles at the fortresses Solomon and A Baoa Qu. Zeon had planned for these 2 fortresses, in addition to the lunar base at Granada, to serve as the final defensive line before the Federation could reach Side 3. Zeon knew the attack would come to one of these 3 fortresses, but the question was which. Leaving from Jabro after the failed Zeon attacks, the White Base headed towards the Granada base. Intending to fool Zeon into believing that the next attack would arrive at the moon, the Federation's rebuilt Tianum fleet instead headed towards Dozal Zabi's headquarters at Solomon. Zeon believed that the White Base signaled the true threat, and that it would be at the head of any Federation offensive. In response, Zeon sent multiple groups to engage the White Base, including Shah's own Zanzibar-class ship. Zeon even sent more prototype mobile armors, such as the Zachrello and the Browbro, to attack the White Base. Something interesting that I'd like to note for a future class is that the White Base landed in the neutral Side 6. While this wouldn't be especially important in and of itself, while docked at Side 6, Amuro Ray, the pilot of the Gundam, had a chance encounter with Shar Aznable, as well as the Zeon new type Lala Soon. This meeting would forever change Amuro, and would be incredibly important for the relationship between Shar and Amuro in the years to come. After leaving Side 6, the White Base headed towards Solomon to meet with the rest of the Federation fleet, fending off continued Zeon attacks from the moment they left Side 6. Solomon was one of the most heavily defended locations in the Earth sphere. It was stationed with a large number of Zakus and Rikdoms, and bolstered a number of megaparticle cannons, long-range missiles, a large amount of Zeon capital ships, and even asteroids fitted with engines to act as long-range missiles. With all these forces at its disposal, it seemed an insurmountable obstacle. However, the Federation had planned for the assault. The Federation plan, codenamed Operation Chembalo, had devised a means of neutralizing the long-range defenses, as well as the exterior weapons and mobile suits once they had penetrated Solomon's defenses. However, Zeon paid little attention to the long-range missiles or the collection of solar reflectors the Federation forces had deployed with them. While the Federation had brought the bulk of their military to bear, Zeon did little to reinforce Solomon. While they had sent an experimental mobile armor, called the Big Zam, they provided little else in way of material or soldiers. The battle began with a barrage of long-range missiles from the Federation forces. These appeared to be standard missiles to the Zeon forces, who proceeded to shoot them down before they could impact Solomon. However, the Federation had planned on this. The missiles didn't contain high explosives, but rather were densely filled with Minovsky particles. By destroying the missiles, the particles would be spread across the approach to Solomon. This would not only mask the attacking Federation forces from long-range targeting, but would also disperse the long-range particle cannons of Solomon. As the attack commenced, Dozal ordered his wife Zena and child Maneva to evacuate Solomon and flee to Granada. While he felt it best to send them away from the battlefield, he did not feel it necessary to ask for reinforcements at the time. In response to the closing Federation forces, Dozal Zabi deployed his ships and mobile suits to engage the Federation forces at close range. It was at this point that the Federation unveiled its second weapon it had brought to Solomon. At the Federation staging grounds behind its main fleet, they had deployed a large number of solar reflectors. These formed the weapon known as the Solar System. This large collection of reflecting mirrors would be used to focus sunlight into a relatively small area and act as a high-intensity beam. With the mobile suit forces within Solomon drawn out into the open, the Federation fired the Solar System. It produced a powerful beam that swept across Solomon's defenses, destroying the mobile suits and ships near Solomon's main space gate. This crippled the defenses of Solomon and would allow Federation forces to breach the fortress. By this time, Dozell realized the fortress would not hold for long. He recalled the forces deployed from Solomon and hoped to concentrate his defenses long enough for reinforcements to arrive. At this time, Shah's forces would leave from Side 6, while Makuve's fleet would depart from Granada. While en route, Makuve's fleet would encounter the fleeing Maneva and Zena. While Makuve would continue on towards the battle, he would send some of his most powerful ships back to Granada as an escort for Dozell's family. Forced to fight with every man available, Dozell Zabi himself entered the Big Zom and sortied with the remaining Mobile Suit forces. He hoped to lead a counterattack that could buy time for Shah and Makuve's forces to arrive. The Big Zom was, in many respects, like many other Zeon mobile armors. However, it was easily one of the most ambitious units designed. It stood nearly 60 meters tall, almost 3 times the height of the already massive 17-meter Zaku. When fully loaded, it would weigh nearly 2,000 tons, easily 40 times that of a single mobile suit. It wasn't just a massive machine. It was armed with a large megaparticle cannon, which far exceeded the weapons mounted on capital ships at the time. It was also loaded with a number of smaller particle guns and air-to-air missiles. Arguably the most important part of the Big Zom was its I-field generator. Much like the Minovsky-spreading missiles deployed against Solomon, the I-field would create an area of dense Minovsky particles around the Big Zom. This would allow it to deflect and disperse beams fired against it. In many ways, it seemed to be an invincible mobile armor. By the time the Big Zom was deployed, nearly 3/4 of Solomon's forces had been eliminated. Realizing that victory was impossible, Dozell ordered all of his forces to retreat, and continued the fight alone in the Big Zom. Dozell had hoped to stall the Federation fleet long enough for his own forces to retreat to safety. He had some early success in his counterattack, penetrating the attacking Federation fleet's line and even managing to destroy Admiral Tiananmen's ship. Most Federation forces were unable to damage the Big Zom to any appreciable extent. However, Amro and another pilot from White Base, Slegger Law, were able to close distance with the Big Zom. While Slegger would be killed while acting as a decoy, it would allow Amro to critically damage the Big Zom. Even as his mobile armor fell apart, Dozell Zabi took up a rifle and exited the Big Zom, continuing to fire on the Gundam. Dozell stood atop the Big Zom, firing his rifle and shouting that the Gundam would not defeat him, until the Big Zom's reactor exploded, killing Dozell Zabi. With Solomon fallen, Zeon pulled its remaining forces around A Baoa Qu. If the Federation fleet would be able to pass this final fortress, they would have an unobstructed line to Side 3, the seat of Zeon's power. It would be a few days before the Federation would be able to launch their attack on A Baoa Qu, and thus they stationed themselves within Solomon to regroup and re-equip their forces. General Rebel would arrive shortly after Solomon was secured, and set about preparing for Operation Star 1, the assault on A Baoa Qu. At this time, there were a few minor skirmishes in the area around Solomon. Makuve, equipped in a prototype mobile suit, the Gyan, lured the White Base into an ambush at the nearby Texas colony. Although he was unable to defeat Amuro and the Gundam, and was killed in battle, it offered Shar an opportunity to observe the Gundam in combat. Shar had been tasked with developing the new type abilities of Lala Soon and Chalia Bol, and was gathering as much information on possible new types such as Amuro. Shortly after the battle in the Texas colony, Shar, together with new types Lala Soon and Chalia Bol, would begin launching guerrilla attacks on the forces surrounding Solomon. While the regular forces would not have any success in repelling the attacks, the White Base was deployed and managed to fend them off. Chalia Bol and his new type capable Browbro were both destroyed in one battle with the Gundam, while Lala Soon was slain in another, forcing Shar to retreat to A Baoa Qu. As I've mentioned before, we'll get deeper into the interplay between Shar and Amuro in another class, but the death of Lala Soon would change Shar and Amuro both, and inspire a new depth to their bitter rivalry. At this time, Giran Zabi began to lay out his plans to defend A Baoa Qu from the approaching Federation forces. He planned to recall the Granada fleet and fight a pitched battle outside of A Baoa Qu, hoping to break the Federation forces. After seeing the solar system in action, He also moved ahead on plans to produce a similar system, dubbed the solar ray. Rather than a collection of solar reflectors, this system would use a colony from Side 3. In the span of a few days, Giran had the colony evacuated and prepared for use as a large-scale weapon. While Solomon had been a powerful fortress, it was believed that A Baoa Qu would be invincible. It was the largest fortress built at the time, as well as the general headquarters of Zeon's military. Giran had ensured it was protected by two of the most advanced weapons Zeon had at the time, the Dolos carrier and the Gelgoog mobile suit. The Dolos carrier was a dedicated mobile suit carrier. However, where the Pegasus-class ships fielded by the Federation would hold up to 6 mobile suits, the Dolos was intended to carry 182, and was armed with a number of large particle cannons. In addition, Zeon's mobile suit forces were bolstered by the addition of the Gelgoog. It's hard to say exactly how powerful this mobile suit would have been at the time, but its performances ranked anywhere from above the Rikdom, and some estimates put it on par with the Gundam. In any case, it was an extremely capable mobile suit, and was often equipped with beam weaponry like its Federation rivals. While Giran had laid out his plans to defend A Baoa Qu, Degwin had grown tired of the war. He had lost 2 of his sons, and the young empire he'd begun to build was in danger of collapse. In addition, his oldest son, Giran, disgusted him by this point. Giran had spoken to his father of a desire to keep the reduced population of humanity in line through a dictatorship, ruled over by the superior races, with the Zabi family at the head of the government. Deciding the war needed to end, Degwin departed from Side 3 in secret aboard his flagship, the Great Degwin. He hoped to meet with the Earth Federation and begin peace negotiations. While General Revel planned to begin his assault on A Baoa Qu on the 30th of December, when Degwin appeared ready to discuss terms of peace, he held off the assault. Unfortunately, Giran had discovered his father's wish to begin peace talks, and decided to eliminate his father. Activating the solar ray, Giran fired upon the Federation fleet, killing his father, General Revel, and 30% of the Federation forces deployed to assault A Baoa Qu. Shortly after the destruction caused by the solar ray, the White Base joined the Federation forces. With no other prominent rallying figure, and their chain of command in disarray, the Federation fleet formed around the White Base and began their attack. Much like Solomon, the Federation led their assault with the use of missiles loaded with Minovsky particles. While they no longer had the use of the solar system, the Federation would still be able to close with A Baoa Qu and use its superior numbers. While Giran had intended the Dolos carriers and Gelgoog mobile suits to serve as an unbreakable bulwark, he did not count on superior numbers overwhelming the massive carriers, nor did he realize that the powerful mobile suits he had at his disposal would largely be piloted by novice pilots. When faced with the experienced pilots of the Federation, they found the Gelgoog's advantages were not enough. While there were some ace pilots at the Battle of A Baoa Qu, such as Anavelgato, Shar Aznable, now piloting a prototype mobile armor, and Johnny Ridden, they could do little to stem the overwhelming tide of Federation forces. In addition, although Shar was piloting a very capable mobile armor, he was distracted from the fighting by his feud with Amuro, and contributed little to the overall battle once the Gundam had been spotted. During the battle, Cassilia confronted Giran about her father's death. She had known about her father's departure to meet with the Federation fleet, and knew that he had been killed by the solar ray. When pressing her older brother, Giran told her that it wasn't the right time for peace negotiations. She immediately executed Giran. While the soldiers around her were shocked, she quickly took command and began to organize the defenses of A Baoa Qu. Shortly after this, a fleet of roughly a dozen ships, led by Aiguille de Laz, heard about the death of Giran. De Laz was fiercely loyal to Giran, and hearing of his execution caused him to withdraw his fleet from the combat zone. They took many hardline Zeon pilots, including ace pilot Anavelgato, and fled deeper into space, weakening an already faltering defense at A Baoa Qu. The White Base, while attempting to breach the defenses of A Baoa Qu, was critically damaged, and forced to crash land in one of the hangars on the space station. The crew of the White Base defended the crashed ship against further assault from Zeon forces in A Baoa Qu, repelling both mobile suit and infantry attacks that came from all sides. The strongest weapon of the White Base, the Gundam, would find itself disabled by Char's Zeon. However, during the duel between Amuro and Char, Amuro was able to destroy Char's mobile armor. Both would continue fighting on foot inside of A Baoa Qu. As the battle continued, it was increasingly apparent that Zeon would lose A Baoa Qu. Even with 30% of their forces lost before the battle began, the Federation had brought to bear a terrifyingly powerful force, and was slowly grinding the Zeon defenses down. Kycilia planned to flee from A Baoa Qu, hoping to continue the battle with the remaining forces Zeon commanded. Before Kycilia could escape, Char turned on Kycilia. He appeared before her ship with a handheld rocket and fired through the bridge window. Kycilia was killed instantly, while her ship was destroyed shortly after by Federation forces attacking the space station. The battle ended with A Baoa Qu heavily damaged and Zeon forces scattered. While Amuro would escape from A Baoa Qu, joining the evacuating crew of the White Base, Zeon would not have such success. Char would be declared missing in action from A Baoa Qu, while the Zabi line had been effectively ended with the deaths of Giran and Kycilia Zabi. Many of Zeon's greatest aces either were killed or scattered into space with the remaining Zeon forces. In the end, the Federation would declare victory at A Baoa Qu. The day after, on January 1st of UC 0080, the Earth Federation and Zeon would sign an armistice, ending the war. The Principality of Zeon would be replaced by the Republic of Zeon. Although granted some autonomy by the Earth Federation, the Republic of Zeon would be monitored closely by the Earth Federation, to ensure there would not be a repeat of the 1-year war. Zeon and Zabi loyalists would scatter across the Earth sphere. Some took up hiding on Earth, preparing for guerrilla operations in the coming years, while others would flee deeper into space. The Delaz fleet would hide in the shoal zone created by the destruction at the Battle of Loom, while many other Zeon hardliners would flee to the asteroid base Axis with the surviving Zabi members, Maneva and Zena Zabi. While the Principality of Zeon had been defeated, the war had caused a deep divide between those living in space and those on Earth. Those on Earth deeply resented the destruction that had been caused by the Principality, and held all of those in space accountable. In space, there would be an increased military presence, and a revitalization of the Earth Federation's military, beyond what was seen during the 1-year war. The Zeon and Zabi loyalists were already preparing for a resurgence against the Earth Federation, and it was only a matter of time before the fighting would begin again. That'll be it for our class today. We'll be taking a break from Mobile Suit Gundam, but don't think that's all there is to cover. When we return to Gundam, we'll be looking at the feud between Char Aznable and Amuro Ray, as this would affect events long past the 1-year war. We'll also discuss the years immediately after the 1-year war, and the role the Delaz fleet would have in shaping the Earth Federation's military. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to fictionalhistory101@gmail.com, or you can tweet them to @fichist101. Thank you for coming to class today. It's always a joy to have you. As mentioned, next class will be covering something other than Mobile Suit Gundam. I hope to get to it soon, as I think there will be quite a lot to talk about. Remember to study, and as for the subject of our next class, I guess you could say that is to be continued. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. The intro music is Labyrinth by Enrico Altavia, courtesy of freesoundtrackmusic.com, while the outro is a sample of Roundabout by Yes. I'm happy to have a good amount of Mobile Suit Gundam behind me, and I'm looking forward to the next set of classes. I'm not sure how long they're going to run for, but I'm hoping for at least 2 to 3 episodes before we circle back to Gundam. Thanks again for listening. It does mean a lot to me to see those little view counters go up, since I like to think I'm not the only one enjoying the sound of my voice. Thanks again, everybody, and have a nice night.